captured by surprise, but one person who found out what was happening before even the government was the BBC's Laurie Margolis. Laurie, just explain. I mean, this was a fascinating moment in history, which you were absolutely integral to.
Good morning, Tim. Well, we are here in the West End, opposite Broadcasting House, and let me explain why we're here. Up behind me is a building which is now the Langham Hotel. It's a very expensive hotel, but at the time, this is April 1982, it was a rather ropey BBC office building. But up on the top, where you're looking now, there was an amateur radio station. Now, I am a radio amateur with the call sign G3UNL. On the 2nd of April 1982, I'd been on assignment in the Middle East. I came into work and was met with scenes of near panic because the Argentines at 9:30 in the morning, our time, had claimed to have invaded the Falklands, and other than a rather laconic message from Cable and Wireless saying we have new friends, there was no indication whatsoever from the islands. We had no confirmation, no news, there were no phones, no internet, nothing in those days. I was asked to go and try and use the amateur radio station, which is up on the building there, to contact the Falklands. Went up there and listened around for most of the afternoon, and mid-afternoon I heard a familiar voice, a fairly distinctive Falkland accent with a sort of West Country burr to it. And I realised this was a guy I'd spoken to a couple of times over the years called Bob McLeod. He was a plumber in Goose Green, about 50 miles outside of Port Stanley. I spoke to him and he said, "Laurie, why is the BBC saying there's been no invasion?" He said, "There's an Argentine aircraft carrier in the bay, there are Argentine troops all over town, the governor and the Marines have been taken prisoner. The broadcast station's talking in Spanish and basically it's all over. We've been invaded by the Argentinians." I then went on Radio 4 on the PM programme. There was no continuous news in those days with this story. Was then rung shortly afterwards by somebody I thought was from the Foreign Office, but I think may have been from an intelligence officer, to ask what I knew. And I told him what I knew, that it was all over. And about 50 minutes later, Lord Carrington stood up as Foreign Secretary in the House of Lords and announced that the invasion had happened. Now, what has really amazed me about these papers, which have come out today, is how crucial that information I gave them was. First of all, to be honest, I'd forgotten how much detail there was there. Thank heavens it was right. And it really was the basis for pretty much everything they knew in those first hours. It was the only intelligence, it was the only hard information. The chap I was speaking to, Bob McLeod, was not in Port Stanley, he was 50 miles away, but they had a very good VHF link up around the islands, and his information was good. As it turned out, it was spot on. And that is how the day developed.
The most fascinating story, Laurie. Thank you very much indeed. We'll see you there. Thank you very much, Laurie.